Hey there, welcome back to the After the Sermon podcast series where we discuss what we preach through on Sunday and just give a little more insight, some reminders of application, and just maybe some things that we weren't able to get into during the sermon, but we find are helpful and good for our study. I am Pastor Ben, here with Pastor Matt.
Hey guys.
And we talked about one of the most talked about topics in my life when it comes to fashion, which was shoes.
Yes, and your lack of wearing them.
Right, to the point where in a recent Senior Saints breakfast, someone came up to me and said, I didn't recognize you because you were wearing shoes. And I think they meant it genuinely.
It's looking too much at toes for me. Okay, let's start this. This is what the people want, okay? Is the flip-flop a shoe?
Is a taco a sandwich?
No, but a hot dog is.
Hotly debated.
Okay, so why? Seriously, this people want to know, all right? What is your infatuation with the flip-flop?
So growing up, and my parents still live there, it was a 20-minute walk to Lake Michigan. So when you're going to the beach, which I know people think, oh, lakes don't have beaches, but you've never been to the Great Lakes if you don't understand, like, when you go to the Lake Michigan, like, it's huge.
Yeah.
And it's, like, actually nice sand versus some of the stuff around here. And so just growing up, I would constantly be going down to the beach. And really, honestly, I wouldn't even wear shoes most of the time, but I would take a pair of flip-flops and stick them, because that was the 90s, where it's the time where you had the cargo shorts or like the zip-offs, and they had a million pockets. So I'd have a pair of flip-flops in there, so if I needed to stop in to Captain Nemo's, get ice cream or something, because no shirt, no shoes, no service. Yeah. So that is why it is my preferred shoe. Okay. Because I think and when you move to Florida, you're like, oh, it's beach everywhere, which is
When's the last time you've been to the beach?
In Florida or in Michigan?
In general.
A year or so. Last summer. Yeah.
Okay. I was waiting for it's been 2 decades. Oh, so you're not wearing sandals to prepare yourself to go to the beach. You just wear them for...
But I also don't like hang out at the beach. I go visit it for a few minutes. Yeah. So if I'm driving, like Flagler Beach, actually, there's a couple places where you can just stop and hopefully not get hit as you try to walk across the street. And then...
See, I used to wear flip-flops all the time. In fact, Julie just sent me a picture, and I was wearing like a shirt I've worn to church recently, and a pair of jeans, and flip-flops. And so I moved away from that to the hey dude. More comfort, more my toes are just don't need to be seen in public. That's part of it. But I used to wear them all the time, and now I'm only in specific occasions. The beach or pool being one of them. Then I don't even know if I own a pair of flip-flops now. A pair of slides.
Yeah.
Do you wear flip-flops on airplanes?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So it was great recording this podcast. We got church discipline to deal with. Oh, man. Socks and sandals? Is that okay?
Only if it's snowing.
Only if it's okay. All right. That's fair. All right.
But I've never been a sandals person. I don't like slides. I don't know.
What's the difference between a sandal and a flip-flop?
Because a flip-flop has to be $3 or less.
Okay. All right.
As part of it. Has to be made with some awful thing for our environment, I'm sure, because it probably never breaks down. But also it has to have that little part so my toes can grip onto it and I can run or sneak up on people. Like, I'm a flip-flop expert. I really am.
Okay. So can you move furniture backwards in flip-flops?
Yeah, absolutely. I've helped many a church member.
Okay.
In that exact circumstance.
But you can't work at Chick-fil-A in flip-flops.
No, you can't.
That's against the law.
Also, you're just going to fall immediately because floors are always wet.
Yep. Anyways, on that note, let's flip-flop this conversation to the sermon.
Yeah, so talking about the putting on the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace.
Yeah.
This is our next part of the armor. And we looked at what that shoe wear would have been then.
Yeah.
Obviously it was not flip-flops.
I really hope we're going to go back to the flip-flops here. When in that final battle that we see played out in the Revelation, man, I hope we're all there just fighting, and here comes Ben in his bright green flip-flops ready to attack. I hope that's part of it, because that's when I know, for one, we've clearly won this war if our commander-in-chief is letting people out in flip-flops. But two, it's just the personalities at play. Yeah, okay, on that note, the shoe for the Roman soldier was very important for us, and that's why we started the conversation. It's more of an accessory. in our day and age. We have a whole bunch of shoes for different occasions. But for the Roman soldier, that was not the case. They needed something that would give them a firm footing in no matter the environment, that was comfortable, and that also they could give them some mobility in their fight. So it was a kind of a leather, you could almost say a flip-flop of sorts. Some would say it's a boot, but in this case, it was the piece, the shoe, and I showed pictures of it where it had a very sturdy leather sole, and they would put nails in there to give it a cleat-like material, and then it would strap around your leg to hold on tight as laces. But what made it important was the cleat aspect of it. So we think of soccer cleats, football cleats, baseball cleats, and all of those cleats are different. And compared to a golf cleat, it's based on the terrain of which you're playing. But for the Roman soldier, they need something that, okay, it's sandy, it's wet, it's slippery. And so this helped them in their fight wherever the fight took them. And so they needed something that would give them a firm foundation. And it's only fitting that when talking about the shoe, that Paul would refer to the gospel, and that we put on the readiness to fight as pertaining to the gospel of peace.
Yeah. And we talked Sunday, how does then the gospel of peace prepare us for the fight that's ahead?
First and foremost, it gives us a firm footing, right? We're talking a lot about standing firm. And so it's one thing to stand firm on a surfboard, right? And so in the middle of the water, you're going to have loose footing, okay? So in a standing firm in our fight against sin, we have to get something that's going to keep us grounded and keep us from slipping. And that's the gospel. The gospel is what we stand on. That's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15. Let me remind you, brothers, of this gospel that I preached, in which you believe, in which you stand. And so it's this reminder, our firm footing is in the gospel of Jesus, this finished work, the good news of the finished work of Jesus Christ on the cross and his resurrection from the dead that brings life to sinners. And then from it, we see Paul just gives this deeper description, this gospel of peace. Peace is such a odd word to use here in the midst of warfare, because it's violent, it's loud, it's chaos, there's lots of going on. But here we have peace. This is what we stand on. So we have peace with God, meaning what we talked about in our righteousness positionally. We're no longer enemies with God. We are friends. We are children. We are followers. We have peace there. It's been reconciled. So we're on the same side here as Jesus. But it also brings us peace in God, meaning no matter where we're fighting or what we're fighting, we have peace. And so in a world that's just overly anxious, overly worrisome, overly doubting, hey, for the Christian, there's peace. Peace with God, but peace in God. That no matter if I'm fighting this circumstances here, I can have peace knowing that my footing is in Jesus. He is the firm foundation. If I'm standing in him, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, and we've said it now for several weeks, but this standing is an active thing.
Yeah.
And so actively recognizing and utilizing the peace that we have from the gospel. It's not just, oh, I feel good. But it's using that peace in the way that keeps us on track.
I like to think that oftentimes we think of the gospel as an accessory that we don't use. Like, I don't understand shoe collectors. The Jordans are all the rage, right? And so people collect Jordans. It's Michael Jordan is a basketball player for the Chicago Bulls. Okay. Sorry, let me clarify. People will collect them and then not wear them. And to me, I'm like, that's not the purpose of a shoe. It's not to collect. It's to put to use. And so the gospel is not something we just collect and put on a shelf. We use it. So this is why so many different pastors along the way, I believe it was Tim Keller who said, the gospel is not just the ABCs of salvation, it's the A to Z of the Christian life. And it's all of life, that we are It's Titus 2:11-15 that we referenced on Sunday. It's, for by grace you are saved through faith. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. That's Ephesians 2.
Yeah.
Titus 2 is, for the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation to all people, and that same grace teaches us. So the gospel doesn't just save us, it sustains us. And so if we treat the readiness of the gospel of peace in this fight against sin and temptation as an accessory that we can just shelve, then we are going to get knocked down. We are to put it to use. We are to stand in it, wrap our legs in it, because if our feet are injured, you're not going anywhere. Whether you've got a shield, a helmet, and truth, you're defeated. You can't stand if you have if you're defeated. That's, oh boy.
Yeah, but it's true. It's similarly if you're walking on terrain without shoes.
Correct. You think of hot pavement. When you step on it, you're like, oh, man, what do you want to do? You're unprotected. You got to get out of there. The gospel brings that protection.
Well, and it also gives us comfort, as we talked about.
Correct.
Again,
Yep.
No matter what we're facing, if it's rocky terrain, if it's sandy, if
Right.
it's slippery, having those shoes,
right,
and in this case, again, the gospel,
right,
brings us comfort in knowing that, okay, the terrain can't, or rather the terrain will be conquered, will be over.
Correct.
Be able to move around in it because of what we have on.
Right. There's no terrain, there's no fight, there's no circumstance that is far greater than the gospel. So it's like when I travel and I'm flying, I'm wearing a certain pair of shoes, and it's one I want to be comfortable. I don't want to be in a pair of uncomfortable shoes. And this is why I've bought the same pair of shoes from Amazon like 3 times, because I know that shoe, it's comfortable. No matter where I wear it, I can wear it all day. So the gospel brings us current, no matter what circumstance we're facing. The gospel always brings comfort. That this is who I am in Jesus. This is what Jesus has done for me. This is what Jesus will do for me. That no matter what I'm facing right now, the worst thing I could ever face has been dealt with because of Jesus. That's comforting. So yeah, if I'm fighting sin, no matter what sin I'm facing, I'm equipped with the right pair of shoes. If I'm facing a parenting circumstance or a work circumstance or a health circumstance or whatever, the gospel is the right pair of shoes. No matter what we're dealing with, the gospel brings comfort to us. Not only just the reminder, and remember, it's peace, the gospel of peace. It brings me the comfort that, hey, if I lose my job, my standing with Jesus is still okay. It's still good. If I'm fighting the sin, my standing with Jesus is still good. If I'm facing this health circumstance that is life-threatening, my standing with the Lord is still good. And at the same time, I have peace. That I'm not only at peace in God, but with God. That no matter what, I'm okay. And so you see that standing firm requires a piece of armor that allows us to move.
Yeah, and that's when I was running marathons, I did a lot of research into some different types of shoes to get the right kind of shoe that would let me endure that long thing. And one of the interesting things that people do is chainmail socks, and they're not very mobile.
Why would they do that?
So you could run like all-terrain races. So it's a protective thing, but it's not a very mobile thing. But these sandals but also if you're just running in one direction and you're not really doing anything else and all you care about is guarding your feet,
right,
then it's an option. Again, it's an option for people who don't want to wear shoes. That's really where it came from.
Right.
For me. But the gospel of peace gives us the mobility to be able to maneuver and attack sin.
Right. Because I think the stand firm, when we think of stand firm in a fighting, it's I'm unmovable. Yes, but no. So like you're postured in such a way that even when you move, you're not going anywhere. And when you're fighting sin, you have to adapt. You have to move let's use the sin of pornography, for example. All right. And I referenced this a little bit on Sunday too. How we fight that sin now looks different than it did 50 years ago. Technology changes. All right. So how it looked 50 years ago is going to look different than it did 300 years ago. And so how you fight that sin there has to be some adaptability to the approach. And that's where it's the gospel, right? We're still attacking you with the gospel. It's just, it looks different here. It's, hey, now you're still going after your heart, but hey, if this is an issue, you put some blockers on your phone, right? It's where 50 years ago it was you just avoid the gas station, okay? Or 20 years ago it was that way. Or so there's this, we stand firm, but the gospel gives us the mobility to attack in the gospel, if that makes any sense.
So we're applying the truth of the gospel
Correct.
to the situations that we face in real life, because the gospel truth, we know what we're called to do and the victory that we have over sin.
Yeah, and I reiterated this on Sunday. I'm going to reiterate it now. Don't leave your gospel shoes at church. Like, we think this is just something, I just need this at church. No, you need the gospel everywhere. They're not just your church shoes. They're your everyday shoes. They're for all circumstances. And so I think there's a lot of us that are guilty of, we're gospel people from 10 to 11:30, which means you're not a gospel person. And so there's a lot of people that proclaim the gospel, but then they're legalist online. And so you're a gospel person all the time, or you're not a gospel person. So we put on the readiness of the gospel of peace, because we are ready to fight in the gospel. No matter what, where, or how, or what we're fighting, it's in the gospel.
Yeah, and I think you said this, you wouldn't leave the house without shoes.
Yeah,
of anything that's obvious. You might leave a hat, you might leave your watch.
Correct.
You know that you're going to need
a pair of shoes
to do whatever it is that you're going to do.
Yeah. Usually when we're not wearing shoes, we're in a place of rest. So if you're at the beach, it's rest. You're at home, you're in familiar territory that you know you're not going to get hurt. I mentioned this Sunday, I don't get people that wear shoes in the house. Like in your own home. Like I walk in, the first thing I do is I take my shoes off. Because I'm rest. I know this area. I'm safe here. This is not how we're to treat our Christian life. We are not safe. We are at war. And so it's always got my shoes on, because I don't want to walk and step on what do you call those things that they're in the grass?
Burrs.
Yeah. That's why you don't walk through the grass. I know if I'm walking in the grass at my house, I'm in danger of stepping in something that's harmful. But at home, there's comfort. And so we're not at home yet.
Right.
Our home is in heaven waiting for us. That's when we take off our shoes. And that's when we get to see the nail-pierced hands and feet of Jesus, knowing, we're at rest now. We're safe. I can prop my feet up and know that the battle's over. It's won. But right now, yes, that victory is secured. But right now we're fighting, so we need to be ready. And we're ready by putting on the gospel shoes of peace.
Any other last thoughts or things to look forward to as we just continue our way through the armor?
I'm a size 11 and would always like to own a pair of Jordans. Is that what you meant by this? You were going in a different direction?
I have 17 pairs of flip-flops. I don't need any.
He doesn't need any more. If anything, he needs a pair of shoes. No, I think it's just what we've seen so far is truth is very important in our fight, in our spiritual warfare. Righteousness is very important, and the gospel is very important. We're going to continue to see it's not one that's greater than the other. They're all equally important, and they're all connected. So if you have no truth, you have no gospel, and you have no righteousness. If you have no righteousness, you have no truth, and you have no gospel. If you have no sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, you don't have these things either. So that's what we talk about. It's all or nothing, and why they work together. And they're very close in hand, because the armor is God's armor, and God is the gospel. And we are safe and secure in him no matter where we go, no matter what we're facing, no matter what sin we're fighting. He's made a way out, and it's the gospel.
All right. We will continue just to look at this scripture and life groups this week. Just talk through how this is applying to each of our individual walks. Because if you're putting shoes on, you must be walking.
Yeah, that's true. These boots were made for walking.
Oh, we're going to get copyright struck.
Oh, no. I think everybody should wear their favorite pair of shoes to life group. Let's see how many people are actually listening to the podcast. Wear your favorite pair of shoes. We will allow flip-flops to life group.
Yeah, but I'll have to pack them because I'm coming from work, but that's fine.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
But, yeah, so, again, if you're listening to this, you're not already coming to a life group, know barrier to join, no prerequisites. Even if you're not listening to this, I don't know how you would hear the messages that I'm saying, but
Correct.
open to anyone at any time.
We don't even require shoes.
No.
We frown upon it, but we don't require it.
With that being said, whether we see you Tuesday, Wednesday, or the following Sunday, we just look forward to gathering every time with God's people and just being able to share His grace with every life. Reach out if you ever need anything, and just continue to stand firm, as we've been saying and hearing over and over again, as we just continue to fight this spiritual battle that we thankfully already know who has the victory. So rest in that, and we'll look forward to seeing you. God bless.